in that stadium. It legitimately felt like a home game, as it should. Even though it's a neutral site game, we're playing in our hometown, and I felt like that the atmosphere there really gave us a bit of an advantage because of how loud and raucous and energetic the crowd was. So with that, questions?
Coach, talk about Greg Wooden. Andrew.
Oh yeah, Greg's shoulder, good. MRI came back, it's soft tissue, nothing structural. So he missed practice yesterday, really just because that was when we could get in to get an MRI on Sunday. So we held him out from throwing today. He came in today, felt a lot better, is getting treatment. Expect him, if not tomorrow, then certainly by Wednesday's practice.
Coach, this morning on SportsCenter, one of their anchors was on there, one of their analysts or whatever, saying, well, Houston, they only have one game left of this season, and that's Louisville. How do you, obviously a stupid statement, you've got a full season to play. How do you keep your guys' mentality? I know you do the week by week thing, but they're going to hear that sort of thing.
Yeah, the thing I've said all along, leading up to this season, it'd be foolish of me not to think that they don't hear it. They're going to hear it. But what I'm proudest of most of this team is they don't listen to it. And I think they truly believe and understand in the way that we handle our business, and they're a very mature group of guys that the culture that is ingrained in this program won't allow it. And if you look right there to your top left, it says 1-0. Since the day we got here, that's been a mantra of ours, and will continue to be. And I think these guys know. I mean, if me or Coach McKnight or any of our assistants, for one split second even think that there's complacency and or the foot being let off the gas, they're going to get smacked in the face with a proverbial shovel and reminded of what our culture demands of them.
Tom, after the game you had mentioned red zone and settling for someone, not settling, but you failed those into the touchdowns there. I was curious, what other things did you come out of the game that you felt like maybe need to get cleaned up or some improvement on that kind of stood out?
Well, we had some coverage busts in the secondary that, two young safeties back there didn't do a great job communicating. I think it was, again, more nerves than it was, the way that they're being coached or what they're being asked to do. So we've got to clean that up, and we can't have the kind of bust that we had in the secondary. And then, we got to be able to run the ball. When you got a 16-point lead late in the fourth quarter, you got to go get a few first downs and keep your defense off the field. And then, we were at the 4-minute mark about to go up 40-17 on the number 3 team in the country, and we fumbled a dang ball going in the end zone and put our defense back out on the field, and that's obviously very unacceptable.
Speed-wise, you were pretty good though. You can have just the normal block, and then the celebration one comes to mind.
Yeah, the celebration one was idiotic, but and Garrett has been dealt with on that. We definitely want our guys to get excited, but we want them to express it in the proper way. And then, Will's wasn't a penalty. It was called, but it was, when you watch the film, it wasn't there.
Coach, if you can, just expound on your special teams this past weekend. Obviously, you got the return and the touchdown, but beside that, what else stood out?
Well, that we stink on kickoff return. We had 2 returns, first 2 returns of the game, I believe. Brandon caught on the goal line, and we got out to, I think, like the 12 and the 14-yard line, or the 9, and something like that. And so that was a point of emphasis going into the season. So we really got to evaluate, what we're doing and who we're putting on that team, because you got guys like Terrell Williams, and we got one of the best returners in the nation, and Brandon Wilson back there. We got to find some other dudes that can step up, but was happy. You know, I think our punter did what he's supposed to do, and for a guy that's never punted in a American football game ever, to have to go out there and do it in that game, you know, did admirably. And then obviously our kicker, I hate field goals. I mean, despise them. He actually told me this stat, that he played in 10 games last year and only attempted 8 field goals. And in the first half of this one football game, he attempted 4 of them. So, but he was 4-4 on them, and we obviously needed those points, so was proud of him.
Tom, right here. Brandon Wilson now has, I think, something like 6 different types of touchdowns in his collegiate career. What are some traits that you notice about Brandon that allow him to find the end zone in such a diverse way?
He's strong. He's pound for pound, if not he's one of the strongest guys on our team. And he runs really, really hard, and he's fast when he does it. So when he is in the open field, he can run away from people and he can run through some angles, but he's also really good at running in traffic too, in terms of being able to run with some strength and power behind him to bounce off some arm tackles.
Tom, yesterday we requested to talk to Oliver, and he politely declined, saying he hadn't earned it. What do you think about that?
I thought it was the coolest thing I'd seen in a long time. You know, freshmen around here don't get to talk to the media until they play, and so obviously he played and played well, and it was, you know, as is our policy, he was allowed to speak to the media, but for him to say that he hasn't earned it, I think speaks a lot to his maturity level and kind of the way he feels about his team and his teammates, that you know, he's still got a lot of proving to do maybe before he gets in front of a microphone. So I applaud him for that.
Coach over here, along those same lines, how does it make you feel as a coach to see these guys buy in so quickly? Because you have a plan in mind, you want them to be all on the same page, but maybe it takes a couple of games, but it seems like all your new guys, all the freshmen that are coming in, they buy in, they know what to do. How does that make you as a coach?
Well, it makes me feel like, one, we've got a heck of a group of leaders that have been able to grab all those young guys and make sure that they're doing things that are up to our expectation level. And we've got a great strength staff, the best in the country. And when these guys come in the summer, you know, they're not around our coaches very much. You know, we're doing camps and then vacation. It's the only time of year we really get off. And the summertime is like the season for our strength coaches. And hats off to Yancey McKnight and his crew of being able to instill that culture in these guys from the word jump when they got here in June.
Tom, and this is not to disparage the opponent coming up, but just curious, when you have a shorter week coming up after a game like this one on Saturday, do you have to balance, or do you have to try to mix in both games and kind of
never would we do that. You know, we knew this short week was coming, and our coaches have watched and kind of, you know, had a preliminary scouting report on Cincinnati, but we will spend 0 practice time or game planning time other than on Lamar.
And secondly, it looked like Kevin Justice was running as your backup, at least for that game. Is there an update on that, or is that just kind of the feel that you got at that point?
It's a what's it say? I got one in my mind, but it's not appropriate. It's you know, it's who's ever playing better than the other ones. Obviously, none of them have played great up until this point, but who's ever playing the best, and really at that position, it's can you protect the ball and protect the quarterback, and we'll figure out all the running stuff later. But if you're careless with the football and you don't understand the protections and you get our quarterback hurt, then you're not going to see the field. And Kevin, for all intents and purposes, right now is doing the best job of that. But again, it'll be a very wide open competition throughout the week of practice.
Tom, you mentioned the support on Saturday and how it really gave you guys a home field advantage. How important is it coming into this Lamar game to fill up TD-ECU Stadium for the first time this year?
It's really important, you know, if we fashion ourselves to be a big-time football program, like the big-time programs in the country, it does not matter what the opponent is or what's on their helmet or what's on their jersey. Their fans, their students, their alumni come and support and watch their team play. And so this will be a very good litmus test for our fans, alumni, and students to see, hey, are you guys want to be this or do you not? The proof is in the pudding.
You said so many times, trust your training. It's a management for your program. The players all talked about how the intensity of your practices and the way that you conduct those practices prepared them to start quickly in a season. How would you describe your approach to practice, contact, those kind of things, and how do you see the payoff when you guys go play that well early?
It's really hard. I mean, we train hopefully harder than anybody in the country. I don't have any metrics that says we do, but our goal is to train harder and more physical than any program in the country. And again, if you're going to do anything at an elite level, such as win a football game against the number 3 team in the country, then you better train that way. We like to think that we practice so hard that the games are easy. And I know a lot of teams say that or maybe glance through it in a team meeting one time or whatever, but that is literally the only thing we focus on is how hard we prepare, how physical we are when we do prepare. And again, kind of a funny scene in the fourth quarter, we could tell our guys were tired and their guys were tired. There was a timeout or change of possession. There was a defensive huddle, and Garrett Davis looked around and said to his teammates, he's like, guys, this is what we trained for. This is like period 18 in training camp. We still got 30 more minutes of live football left. That's pretty unique in today's college football landscape to, A, for the kid to think of it that way, I think was, brought a smile to my face, and then B, there's not many teams that do what we do, and I think our kids take a tremendous amount of pride in that.
Tom, could you just talk about Lamar, if you could watch some tape, some things that stand out?
Yeah, tremendous amount of respect for Coach Woodard and what he's done there, and their 7 years of bringing football back and, playing really good football in the Southland Conference. Obviously, only one game, especially defensively. They've got a new defensive coordinator, so really only one game for us to watch from an offensive game planning standpoint. And what stands out is they're very well coached, they're sound, and their free safety, Jernigan, I think he had 14 tackles. I mean, he's everywhere and makes a ton of plays for them on defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, their running back, Harrington, rushed for 207 yards by himself, and so we're going to have to stop the run, and he's a pretty dang good player.
Tom, any updates on Rashad, and have you heard back on Trendavian?
Yeah, I have not heard about Trendavian, and Rashad is still day-to-day, no updates yet.
And along the receivers, especially on the outside, you seem to have bigger body kind of guys that can go up and make catches. Aren't necessarily speed guys, but
no, they're not.
But you look at some of the things that happened in the game, some of the catches they made. Is that, I don't want to say give and take, or you take that, but I mean they certainly.
Well, if you can't run, you better be able to do that. That's, or else you're probably going to find yourself on the bench. You better be able to do one of two things: is run really fast and be really good in space, or if you can't do that, then like Steve Dunbar and Chance Allen, then you better be big physical presences that can adjust to the football and got great ball skills when the ball's in the air.
Was the Bonner catch about as good as you've seen?
Yes, really good.
Tom, coming into this year, you had to replace some elite level leadership, and especially Landon Roberts, as you may know, on the defensive side. Practice is one thing, but getting into a game setting is another. Were there some guys on Saturday that stepped up in that leadership role that showed you some things?
Yeah, I thought, Matt Adams did a really good job for a guy. He's not officially a captain, but he is still considered a leader on the defense. I thought Tyler McCluskey did an unbelievable job on the offense, and then Greg, again, is kind of a new man, when it comes to that stuff. So was proud of those guys. You're not going to get Brandon Wilson to say a whole lot, but all he does is just go out and make plays and 10 tackles and all that. And Cam Malvo does a good job as well, verbally. And so kind of the usual suspects that I was hoping, the one that, if there was any surprise, I don't think it was a surprise, but one that might be a little bit underrated as a leader was Matt Adams. I thought he did an excellent job of kind of rallying the troops.
What is it about Matt specifically?
He's a very intense dude, he's got a knack for saying things kind of at the right time. I don't know that there's anything, one specific thing, but it felt like when he talked, it was the right thing to say at the right time.
Tom, it seems like the trend in college football the last few years has been to go more toward thud in practice and to back off of contact and to back off of that sort of physical work. You sound like you are still, you didn't buy into that. And I guess I'm curious, how do you know where to draw the line in this day and age?
That's a very subjective question. I think you're right in the fact that I don't buy into that. I don't think you can ask anybody in any walk of life to do anything at a championship level without doing it over and over and over and over and over again in preparation for game day or the performance time or whatever that thing is. But one of the biggest things I was concerned with going in was, were we going to be fresh enough? Were we going to have our legs? Were we going to have a bounce to our step? And we did this last week leading up to the game. Our practices were very short. Now they were intense when we were on the field, but we weren't on the field. But hour 20, hour 30 minutes, where a normal game like tomorrow we'll be out there for 2.5 hours in full pads and all that stuff. But I wanted to make sure that the 2.5 weeks of training camp plus the week before the true game week, that's 3.5 weeks of just pounding the heck out of each other. That myself, and this one thing me and Coach McKnight, we talk about every day is how fresh are we, but we're never going to sacrifice physicality for freshness. If we feel like, hey, we need to harden these guys up, then we'll harden them up and we'll sacrifice a little bit of freshness and maybe some sore bodies going into a game, but they're going to understand, the expectations of how we play the game at the University of Houston. Good? All right, thank you.